Title: A millionaire sent his spoiled daughter to live on a farm as punishment because she didn't want to work. When he visited her, he was stunned. Thomas Weston, a self-made millionaire and owner of a large investment firm, had given his only daughter, Khloe, everything she ever wanted. She grew up in a mansion, wore designer clothes, and traveled the world. However, Khloe had never worked a day in her life. Her days were filled with lavish parties, high-end shopping, and the company of other wealthy socialites. As she reached her 20s, Khloe's entitlement became unbearable. She didn't understand the value of money or the hard work behind her father's success, dismissing his achievements as lucky breaks. But the final straw came when Thomas invited Khloe to a business dinner with potential investors. Rather than listening and showing gratitude, she embarrassed him by saying, "Money is so easy to come by. I don't know why everyone stresses over it." The investors were stunned, and Thomas felt deeply ashamed. He realized that he had failed to teach Khloe the values he held dear: hard work, humility, and respect for others. After some thought, Thomas decided that Khloe needed a wake-up call. He told her he was sending her to live with his old friend, Mrs. Harper, on a remote farm for the summer. "You'll work, learn, and see how real life is lived," he said firmly. Khloe was horrified, throwing tantrums and trying to bribe him with promises to change, but Thomas was unmoved. The next day, Khloe arrived at Mrs. Harper's farm, far from the city. She was dressed in a designer outfit, with her luggage filled with luxury items entirely unsuitable for farm life. Mrs. Harper, a warm but no-nonsense woman in her 60s, greeted her with a knowing smile. She had been informed of Khloe's situation and agreed to teach her some valuable life lessons. From the first day, Khloe was put to work. She struggled with the simplest tasks, like feeding the animals or collecting eggs, complaining constantly and refusing to get her hands dirty. But Mrs. Harper was patient, giving her no choice but to complete each task before moving on. Khloe found herself exhausted, sunburned, and frustrated, but she soon learned that there was no escape from her new responsibilities. The first week was miserable for Khloe. She missed her comfortable bed, her friends, and her phone, which Mrs. Harper had taken away to keep her focused. Yet, as the days wore on, she found herself getting accustomed to the routine. The early mornings became less grueling, and she began to notice the peace and beauty of the countryside. She developed a soft spot for the animals, especially a feisty goat named Daisy, who seemed just as stubborn as she was. Mrs. Harper began teaching Khloe not just the physical tasks but the philosophy behind farm life. "You can't just demand things to be done here," she'd say. "You have to work with nature, be patient, and adapt." Slowly, Khloe started to understand these words. She became friends with the farmhands, people she had initially dismissed as ordinary, and saw the pride they took in their work. She found herself laughing with them, sharing meals, and listening to their stories. Her complaints lessened, replaced by curiosity and respect. Just as Khloe was beginning to adjust, a neighboring farm owner named Bill Jenkins presented a challenge. Bill was a harsh businessman who wanted to buy Mrs. Harper's farm and turn it into a corporate-owned facility, focused on profits and disregarding the land's sustainability. Mrs. Harper refused to sell, but Bill's influence was powerful, and he found ways to make life difficult for her. He blocked her access to certain water sources, hired people to steal livestock, and spread rumors that her farm was failing. Khloe was enraged by Bill's actions. For the first time, she felt a sense of loyalty to someone outside her family. She offered to call her father for help, but Mrs. Harper stopped her. "This is my fight, and I intend to handle it my way," she said firmly. But Khloe couldn't sit back and watch Mrs. Harper suffer. She rallied the farmhands and organized a plan to stop Bill's intimidation. They set up watch shifts at night to protect the animals and worked tirelessly to keep the farm running smoothly. Khloe even learned to negotiate with local suppliers to ensure they weren't influenced by Bill's tactics. The once spoiled heiress was now a determined young woman fighting for a cause. One day, while exploring the old barn, Khloe discovered a box filled with letters and photographs. Curiosity piqued, she read them and found out that Mrs. Harper and her father had once been in love. They had met during a difficult time in Thomas's life when he was just beginning his business and had to leave the farm to pursue his dreams. They had parted ways amicably, but there was still a strong bond between them. This revelation stunned Khloe. She had always seen her father as a strict, business-minded person, and it was hard to imagine him being vulnerable or sentimental. The discovery made her realize that she had known very little about her father's life and struggles. She felt a newfound respect for him and a deeper connection to Mrs. Harper. After 2 months, Thomas came to the farm to check on Khloe's progress. He was prepared for resistance, thinking he might have to extend her stay. But when he arrived, he found a transformed young woman. Khloe was dressed in practical clothing, her hands were calloused, and there was a quiet confidence in her demeanor. Thomas was speechless as he watched her guide him through the farm, introducing him to the workers and explaining the routines she had learned. She even proudly showed him Daisy, the stubborn goat that had become her unlikely friend. Thomas could hardly believe this was the same daughter he had sent away. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table with Mrs. Harper and the farmhands, Khloe shared her experiences and struggles. She expressed gratitude for the opportunity to learn what it meant to truly work for something. Her father was deeply moved and proud, realizing that this time on the farm had taught her lessons he never could have imparted in the city. Just when everything seemed perfect, Khloe received a letter from Bill Jenkins. He had decided to take legal action against Mrs. Harper, threatening to seize her farm on a technicality involving water rights. Khloe's newfound determination ignited once again. She enlisted her father's help, using his business expertise to counter Bill's claims. Together, Thomas and Khloe strategized, gathering evidence of Bill's shady practices and presenting it to the authorities. With the support of the local community, they managed to expose Bill's corruption and prevent him from taking over the farm. In the end, Khloe decided to stay on the farm a little longer, helping Mrs. Harper rebuild and secure her land. She knew she would return to the city eventually, but now she was determined to work with her father, using her newfound skills to support ethical and sustainable practices. When the time came for Khloe to leave, the farewell was bittersweet. She had grown attached to the farm and the people she had met. Mrs. Harper gave her a parting gift, a simple silver necklace that had been in her family for generations. "This is to remind you of where you come from and the values you've learned," Mrs. Harper said. Khloe returned to the city a changed person. She no longer cared for superficial luxuries and found herself driven by a new purpose. She joined her father's business, but with a focus on ethical investments that supported hard-working people and sustainable practices. Her relationship with her father deepened, and they often shared stories of their experiences on Mrs. Harper's farm. Years later, Khloe visited Mrs. Harper's farm with her own family, showing her children the place where she had learned life's most valuable lessons. As they walked through the fields, she couldn't help but feel a sense of peace, knowing that she had found something far more meaningful than wealth, purpose, humility, and a deep appreciation for the simple, hard-working lives of people like Mrs. Harper.